All right, so I thought I would start with the concept of river health. We all know what rivers look like and what they are. If we think about a healthy river, in the same way we think of human health, there's all these different components that make up river health. So we have things like habitat integrity, so that's things like how diverse and intact the habitat of our rivers are. Biodiversity, the number and type of animals and insects and all that kind of stuff living in our rivers. Water quality, these ecological processes, so rivers are really important in things like nutrient cycling and all these different processes, energy flow, species interactions, all this kind of fun stuff. And finally, resilience to disturbance. So as we know, disturbances are increasing, and having streams, rivers and communities that live in these rivers that are capable of riding the storm and being resilient to disturbances is really important. Thinking about all that, this is the current river health of the Richmond River. That's the reaction we want. Unfortunately, that's not the reaction it deserves. It's more of the contrast isn't quite good here, but maybe if you look at, you can see all the red and yellow dots. So basically, all these green patches are our national parks, state forests, that kind of thing. Water quality, river health, really good up there. As soon as we leave that into the farmland and the rest of the catchment, things start going downhill, figuratively and literally. So there's always this really big band of terrible river health, water quality through the middle of the catchment, just above the floodplain. So this is basically the output of our citizen science program. So basically what we're going to do now is we're just basically we're going to reverse engineer this and walk you through how we get to this. Lou, next one, yep. So before European settlement, the Richmond Valley would have been, pristine waters, intact rainforest, all this great, amazing stuff. Next one. Everyone knows about riparian zones, what they do. Next one, we'll just skip through all this. So I do a lot of work in schools and with community groups, and one of the things I like to talk is that rivers aren't just a lifeless ditch that move water to the ocean. And a lot of the times that is kind of the perception of rivers. Some people see, there's some trees, there's grass there, what's the problem? We've got the Upper Richmond there. Actually, no, I think that's Leicester Creek, actually, just near Larnook. So basically you take away all your vegetation, you end up with shallow, warm water, full of nutrients. Not great. We have a lot of this across the Richmond. What we want to see, and what I know you guys are working towards, is this one on the left. All right, to diagnose river health, that's where my life's work comes in. So my passion really is around macroinvertebrates. It's something I came to it's my second career. So I'm a freshwater ecologist now. It's my second career, and so after a couple of years of university, I found these guys, and I've spent the last 12 years working with them. So we'll go to the next one, please. Right, so these macroinvertebrates, these are little and not so little critters living in our water. Probably one of the most important parts of our rivers. So macroinvertebrates, we call them macroinvertebrates because we can see them with our naked eye, and invertebrates, they have no backbone. So the largest group of these are insects, but also things like gastropods and bivalves, worms, unsegmented worms, all that kind of thing. They all spend some or all of their lifetime in water. A lot of them will spend their lives as juveniles in the water and then morph into adults and fly away. They're really important because they eat algae, plants and each other, and they're also eaten by bigger things. Basically, to look at river health, we basically collect these guys and count them. Next one. So they're really amazing because what they have is this varying sensitivity to pollution. Some of these guys, so we kind of rate on a scale from 1 to 10 to make it easy. Some of these guys down this end, ones are super tolerant to pollution. You'll find them living we found them in the Tuck-in swamp in pools where there's pH of 2, like battery acid, and they'll live in that. After some rain, you'll see them in your salt pools because they can tolerate the saline stuff. And then we go all the way up to 10, and basically if humans look at the water, it's not going to live there. So in an ideal, healthy system, we would like to see a range of everything of all of these guys. Kind of the same as the last slide. But yeah, so they're really good indicators of river health, super easy to sample with a little bit of training. Unlike water quality, if you take a water quality sample, you're basically getting a snapshot in time, right? So if someone's tipping something down and you're collecting a water sample, we're only going to find out what's happening in that spot at that second. Because some of these guys live for a long time, some live for a really short time, we can look at the community, we can understand what's been happening for, back to 2 years before we've sampled. Also, with this program, we're doing really long-term monitoring, so we can start to compare things over time. Really cost-effective. We can set up a group for a couple of $100, and they can go for about 50 years with the equipment we give them. And we can train everybody to do it. Oh, I guess that last one's really important. Leverage to implement restoration. So, yeah, here's just, there's a nice graphic of some of the different tolerant, intolerant, and moderately tolerant guys, and a little bit of what they do in the system there. Next one. All right, start to have a look at some of the different types. So these are some of our insects that we get. So these are all nymphs and larvae, so the juvenile form of all these insects. Things like, mayflies and dragonflies. Our fly larvae, next one, we'll just show off some of these cool things. Our water beetles there. So the beetles, it's quite interesting. I find it interesting. So much different looking. And so they all sort of have different roles in the ecosystem. So this is that same larvae here. Things like these caddisflies. Some more of the cool things. That's the adult of that. Oh, there you can see the adult and the juvenile there. So the larva actually has gills, so it breathes underwater. The adult doesn't have gills. You can see that ball of oxygen there. It breathes through its anus. A lot of them do, yeah. It actually, what it does, it'll stick its butt up in the air, pull that ball of oxygen down, and it'll just breathe that ball of oxygen underwater for like 10-15 minutes. All right, there you can go. Yes, tiny but mighty. Now we can have some stories about some individual bugs. All right, so here we've got our caddisfly larvae. These guys, super amazing. They basically all create this waterproof sticky tape in their mouth. And some of them will use that to actually, some of them have soft bodies. And what they'll do is they'll collect stones, sticks, and they'll glue them together to make a little case to live in. This one here, for years we thought it was a seed pod. It secretes this silk into rings and then glues them together. And so that's actually created that from its secretion, from that waterproof sticky tape. The other one, the one above it, actually a sleeping bag caddis. So what they do is, and you'll see the leaves, but they basically cut out two shapes in a leaf and glue them together and then live inside that. Before my PhD, we would just collect bugs, and we collect them in the field and we pick them out of trays straight into ethanol, so we don't actually get to see their behaviour. During my PhD, I actually replicated streams in the lab. So we had communities of bugs sitting in the tanks for like 2 months. I was actually just sit there and watch their behaviour. So all these videos are from that. So it's quite... okay, so this is actually the mascot of the Richmond River Eco Health Program. This is a caddisfly called a hydrophysa, a net spinning caddisfly. And so it doesn't actually make a shell because it has nice hard armour on it there. But what it does is it actually stitches together a net, and it lets that out into the water and pulls bits of leaf and shrimp leg and eats those. which is good in itself, but what it actually does, it's actually an environmental engineer. So what it actually does is it sticks rocks and sand grains together, and it actually reduces scouring during flooding. So there was a study done in Germany where they had 2 aluminium sloughs with rocks in it. One had these guys, one didn't. It took 80% more water to move the rocks where these guys were living. And so we find these guys, so you can see that number 6, so that's the sensitivity to pollution. So they can tolerate some pollution, and we do find them across the catchment, which is great. So yeah, we can just create healthy habitats where these guys can live. They can sort of help us deal with some of the flooding and issues that we have. Next one. Snails. This is actually an introduced snail, but naturalised. It's funny, all the native snails' shells spin one way, whereas the introduced spins the other way. That's how we tell the difference. So these guys will actually push out the natural, the native snails. But still really important, they like eat, because we have all those extra nutrients and lots of algae, these guys will eat all that algae. So really, like snails are really important in the ecosystem, even though we might not like what they do to the native guys. Next one, Lou. And next one's our mayflies. This is probably the most common macroinvertebrate we have across the catchment, especially these guys, the Leptophlebodes. So these guys are really important in breaking organic matter down. We've been doing an experiment with the Risk Public School, and they had two tanks with leaf litter and water. One of them had these guys in it, and one of them didn't. These guys were able to break that leaf litter down in a matter of days. It's been 2 years and the other tanks still got the leaf litter mostly intact. So that's energy wrapped up in the environment that they've released for them to grow, for fish to eat, that kind of thing. So these guys are super important. And 9, it's funny, like 9 is for the order level, but when we drop down to family or species level, they're actually much more diverse. So these guys are actually a 4, so they'll live pretty much, you know, across the catchment. Dragonfly larvae. So dragonflies, these guys are actually the #1 predator on the planet. So they take down in excess of 95 to 100% of their prey that they go after. Lion, tigers, they're at about 30, 25%, something like that. The thing of nightmares, if you watch how they do it. If we go to the next one, we might see why. So we're also, dragonflies are actually direct cousins of these things we call damselflies, also amazing predators. A lot of what we see as adult dragonflies are actually damselflies. So if you see like blue dragonflies flying around, that's actually the damselflies. Next one, let's see if we can find this mouthpiece. Oh, there's some more cool ones. Yep, next one. All right, okay, this is why they're amazing predators. Basically, they have this appendage under their chin that's kind of looks like an arm. They basically fill it with a hydraulic fluid. It's got these claws on the end, and what it'll do is it'll hide. It's an ambush predator. A shrimp or a little fly larva will come along and it'll shoot that thing out and grab it with its thing. Alien, we're all of an age where we've seen Alien. This is good this time. So Alien was actually designed, the way it eats with those 2 mouths was designed off the dragonflies. Some amazing videos on YouTube of these guys predating on insects. But again, don't do it in the dark because it's very scary. No, that's all right. I think this is the final one we're going to look at before we talk about citizen science. But spent a lot of my PhD looking at these glass shrimp, the freshwater shrimp, really, really important in the ecosystem. The main food for bass and platypus, that kind of thing, really important in breaking down algae. Yeah, so these guys live for about 2 years. They breed their second summer, so if we have floods during the second summer, it kind of really impacts, because they have a planktonic larval stage. So like most insects, their larvae lives amongst the rocks, whereas their larvae just in the river. So if you have a large flow, it'll wash all those down. But they generally are breeding at the start of spring, and there's not much water. Now that we've had a look at some of the awesome bugs, we'll get to talk about why they're really important. So yeah, really important indicators of ecosystem health, sensitive to environmental change. They reflect the cumulative effect of stresses. So, and yeah, we can look at long-term trends and that habitat and water quality stuff, and really important for management and conservation and like showing how well restoration works are going. So the idea of the Richmond River Health Program is really to educate, empower, inspire and create action. There's been, I think everyone in here is probably part of the action that's happening, but there's still, as we all know, lots more to do. So really, the idea of the program is to create these regular updates to maintain public awareness. So we actually produce this report every 6 months, rather than a one-off report, so we can actually track changes. It's run by the community for the community, and the idea is, yes, to change behaviours and promote responsible actions. Next one, Lou. All right, we can actually talk about the program. Here we go. So basically the program aims to provide scientific data and information to the public about the health of our rivers across the Richmond River catchment every 6 months. We assess river health using those macroinvertebrates we had a look at. The idea is to identify pressures and issues, to fix those, and also to highlight the good work that's being done. To create long-term monitoring and trends. So there has been 25, or it's 26 now, 26 reports in the last 35 years. They all say the same thing. They all sit on a shelf at Rouse collecting dust. So this one is publicly available every 6 months. You can see exactly what's happening. There's no spin, it's just exactly what's going on. And really create communication and education for everybody. Next one, Lou. Here, so currently we have 150 trained citizen scientists at 38 sites, monitoring river health twice a year. And these are some of those guys. We managed to grab some funding post-2022 from Southern Cross University to start our first one. So we started off with just 10 sites in autumn of 2023. And we had done quite a bit. There was an eco-health report done in 2016. The sampling was done in 2014 by UNE and the state government. I also did one for my honours project in 2016. The main impacts to waterbugs and rivers have changed post 2017, 2022 with the floods. Before that, nitrogen and phosphorus were our real big issues. Those are still as a bigger issue, but the larger issue now is sedimentation. So we all saw all those landslides across the catchment. But basically what's happening now is that the bugs need rocks and gravel to live amongst. They need that pore space amongst all that stuff because they're little, they get eaten by things. They need somewhere to live, somewhere to lay their eggs, somewhere to hide from predators. All that sediment, sand has infilled all that stuff, and we see that across the catchment. So basically what we're seeing is some of those bugs that are really sensitive to pollution, but we're seeing less of them because they're fighting over limited resources. So basically it all comes back to those landslips, poor bank and bed conditions across the catchment, and still lots of algae and eutrophication. Spring 2023, you can see we had a big injection of funds from the state government, thank you. Thanks EPA, that was great. So we were able to triple the amount of groups we had with their money. So that brought us up to around 28 sites, I think. Same result as that first one. Right, so citizen scientists and citizen science, scientists can't go out and collect enough data quickly enough to provide the information required to monitor all these projects and river health all the time. I can probably only do 3 or 4 sites a day, but a sampling season only lasts 2 or 3 weeks, so you can't physically cover all that. But we can use citizen scientists to do that work. And as we have 150 trained people across the catchment doing that. And we're happy for as many more as we can get. So the more people we have, the more data we can collect. Ideally, at a minimum, I'd like to see like top, middle and bottom of each creek and river across the catchment. I'd be happy with if people wanted to have a site every 500 metres, I wouldn't be bothered by that either. Yeah, really, it's great for locals to do that. They have a really good knowledge of the area they're at. I'm sure a lot of people like me, when I look at a river, before I found out about water bugs, I would just see water and think, oh, there's probably some fish and platypus in there. But when you get in there and see the water bugs, it's pretty amazing. And that's really important, I think, to show people that. And yeah, with these people, some of them, you know, they might not have volunteered or done anything before, so it really does start to create this stewardship for like each of our groups is responsible for their section of stream. Yeah, and eventually we hope to influence policy and shape river management. I think we're slowly. We just have to keep showing people how. I spent a long time trying to put a positive spin on the Richmond, even though we knew how bad it was. Yeah, because we have the worst river health in the state, the Richmond Catchment. As long as there's bugs, there's hope. That's kind of my thing now. Like, we could just have you know, the river could look completely dead and you've just got a single chironomid fly larvae living there, but that's something for a turtle or a platypus to eat, you know, so. And basically, if we can create good bug communities, we've created healthy rivers. So they need things like shade from trees, and they need that sediment removed. So stopping erosion, lots of lamanda and that kind of stuff for algae to grow on for them to eat. And yeah, so these guys, basically we can create healthy bug communities, we've created healthy rivers. So yeah, so that's me.